I say this with all love because they hold me down as best as they could. But it got to a point where I was smoking with everybody and we were just talking foolishness. And I had an epiphany. I'm like, I can't do this no more. And I didn't even say that to nobody. I just said it to myself. I was like, I can't do this no more. This is not going. And I just looked around and I was just like, yeah. And from that moment, I started finding things to better Jorge, and that automatically kind of like started shifting everything else because everybody wanted to continue doing what they were doing, and I was just like, I'm good. We're not doing that no more.
We're not doing that.
Even though I kept smoking, because it wasn't the smoking part, but it was the intention behind of what the conversation was.
If you're smoking and you kind of hanging around, you're not being productive.
You're not being productive.
But if you're smoking and go do some creative stuff, now you're kind of in your zone.
And then that's a whole different question because to me it's like I just couldn't, right? Because it just doesn't do me, But yeah, I couldn't. I just needed to get past the whole factor of what we were doing and what was the goals.
What's been the most challenging things you faced with being paralyzed?
Health. My health. I think that.
Physical, mental, both?
I think mental, we good, man. That doesn't mean we don't have challenges. That doesn't mean that we don't go through mild depressions. I think we all do as human beings. I think that what I want you to understand is that this is not Jorge's information. Research says that as human beings, we have about 36,000 thoughts a day. That's your average individual. You got your higher thinkers, and they have maybe about 79,000 thoughts a day. 90% of those thoughts are repeated. 80% of those 90% are negative thoughts. Why? Your subconscious is not made to do what? To make you successful. Our subconscious is made to what? Make us safe. So if Jorge got burned with the stove at 5 years old,
alert.
You're always gonna look at the stove what? I don't rock with stoves. Mm-hmm. But we're really not talking about stoves, right? We're talking about relationships, we're talking about XYZ, we're talking whatever that is.
Trauma.
So we get paralyzed. The reality is Jorge's not 5 no more. I'm a grown man. I know how to get around the stove. But I'll tell myself that I don't forget that burn. So I limit myself in how I grow, self-awareness again. So when you start understanding like what that means, then you could self-evaluate and you could work on yourself. So I'm huge with the mental piece and mindset. I believe mindset is everything. Health, for me, is more the physical part because I deal with a lot of chronic UTI infections. Through that, I've gotten some kidney infections. Mm-hmm. So, that within itself, as I get older, it becomes one of those things that I could be in position to go do a speaking engagement across the country, outside of the country, and I'll get sick. Well, I'm out of the country and I get sick because I do a lot of speaking. So that right there, if I had to look back within the church, the only thing that I would change, the health, because the chair itself got some perks, man. I get in the beginning I get from the back of the line, front of the line. I get to get put in the plane first.
Handicap parking.
Handicap parking. I mean, when I was single, this was a female magnet. I'm telling you, I had dudes. I made this look sexy, man. I promise you. Now I'm happily married, my wife and my queen. But yeah. Dudes was like, yo, you got an extra chair? Yeah. I was like, yo, it's not the chair, bro. It's the swag behind it, bro.
I had it before the
chair. Yeah.
That's funny. When did you start speaking? As far as those events and publicly?
Yeah.
And why?
So I've been speaking since I can remember, man. I've always had this ability since the age of 15 that I can recall, just stepping in and kind of just being the person to do, message or whatever. But truthfully, through the barber industry. So in I got put in the chair in 94. I got to Mass to Worcester in 96. I want to say 97, 98. I went to barbering school, and the way I entered barbering school was that I just stopped in front of the school to try to talk to a shorty, and I thought she was a nurse, and she's like, bro, leave me alone, bro. And so I found out it was a beauty school, and I went in there. That's how barbering found me. So it wasn't even something that I inspired. Through there, I went through the process that I just kind of explained to y'all in school, and then after I graduated from there, I became an instructor, a junior instructor. And my instructor at the time, she took to me, and she embraced me. Through that journey in Rob Roy Academy as an instructor, it's where I started, like, when people would graduate, I would just kind of, they would call me over because I'm always giving a good word. I'm like, yo, listen, man, like, I'm super proud of you, blase, blase, whatever that is, individual, and just giving them some motivational. So that became a catalyst. Maybe about 7 years ago, I got sick and I ended up in the hospital for like a year and some change. I think it was like 9 years ago, because I got skin breakdowns. And when you get skin breakdowns, ultimately the bone becomes infected. And so that they have to scrape the bone. It's a process. So I was in a bed for a year and some change without
Pain?
Crazy pain. Like, when I tell you, in bed, bathing, eating, shout, like without moving, I was in a nursing home. Through that process is where I found my mentor right now, Eric Thomas. You guys ever heard of E.T., the hip hop preacher?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so
You might need to get him on this afterwards. It might get a little hard, but hey.
Nothing's hard, King.
Word.
Nothing's hard. Don't ever use that word hard. If it's a line and God has it for y'all, you do that.
Word.
And how I found that is that I found him on YouTube, and he just looked like we do, and it spoke to my heart, and I was just like something's got to give, right? Something's got to give. Now I was successful already over 10 years in the shop. I went back at my GED, but when I met E, I got on a plane and I went and I just went to. Actually, I didn't even get on a plane. I drove to Philly. He had a conference, and I'm telling you, I always put myself in the room. Whoever you ever thinking of is seeking that you're like, yo, I want to connect. Just put yourself in the room. Take a flight. Don't ever say it's hard. I'm not even supposed to be in rooms where people are like, yo, how you met E? I'm explaining to you. I don't ever say things are hard. It's not. Nah, if it's a line, if God puts it in your spirit, it's a reason. So if you want to meet him and you like, okay, how, Jorge? So I'm gonna tell you. We're gonna get on the website. We're gonna see what are some events. He's got church. He got church in Atlanta. He got church in Houston. Guess what, guys? Let's do a trip. You put yourself in the room. You know what I'm saying? And it might take one or two times, but you can't go wrong by putting yourself in a room where people are gonna elevate you. Information's gonna elevate you. You're gonna connect. You got your brother here anyway too. You know what I'm saying? So that turned into the question of how I started. Then I understood that this was a business, and then we started really. I went through a couple of his trainings as a speaker, and eventually that became a relationship where I'm still working with them. He married my wife and I a couple of years ago in the Bahamas, and I'm just around it. I put myself around the fire, and I just, these are 7-8 figure earners.
Right. Soaking up all the knowledge
and I'm a fly on the wall, and I'm like, yo, God, how I get here? We all know how we got here, right? Because it's why. What did I say in the beginning when I started talking to y'all? I'm proud of y'all, because it starts like this. Don't ever downsize anything. A little room like this is gonna turn into a huge room if that's you. It's what you choose.
Right. That's a fact. How do you respond to people who look down on you for being in a wheelchair now compared to then?
How do I look at them?
How do you respond to them now?
I don't even respond. Like, I don't got time. Who got time to even know? Like, if you watching me, you change the channel, bro. Because you know what I'm saying. I don't even notice that. I don't. So I'll be honest with you. Yeah, that's insecurities within ourselves. If I was sitting here and I'm like worrying about who sees me and what's what, people. My wife is 15 years younger than me. She's 33. I'm 48. And when I go to schools, or they're like, yo, how did you meet him when he was in out the chair? And I'm like, I'm not playing. I'll make this look sexy, bro.
You get it done.
I just, why and they ask her why. Well, he displayed a level of how she says it. She's like, yo, like he was doing so much more than anybody that was walking able and fully. Like he was just like, she was like, I just had to be around that. She just found it appealing, sexy. She found it intriguing. She was like, yo, this dude travels, he does this, right? When you're about yourself and you're not concerning about anybody's opinion, then you're gonna grow. So I don't per se think that I pay attention to that. Some people might get disrespectful, and it's how I said earlier that I still work on that because trauma is the programming.
Right.
And I got to remind myself, like, there's different levels of like how you call it, response. And I'm not a street dude. I'm not a gang member. I'm not 17. I'm a grown man. And, a grown man when you was a child, you do child things. When you're a man, you do man things. And so I'm always working on that. Right there? Yeah. I'm always working on that aspect of it.
What's your advice for someone going through similar experiences as you?
My advice, like I just said, I was just having this conversation with a young man that recently I was able to have a conversation with because he's literally 17 in the wheelchair due to gun violence. But I think that this what I'm gonna say is it goes across the board with any challenges that we go through in life, right? I tell people, like, when we are here sharing, when I share my story, it's not to share narratives, right? Not to compare narratives. Like, we all have certain things and certain challenges. I think that what's helped me in life to this day is to identify what are the things that I could do and what are the things that I can't do. Because what happens with a lot of us, we tend to concentrate on things that we can't handle, and that's just a waste of time. If it's out of your reach and it's not something that's just something that is not on you, then why are we sitting there thinking about? And what I mean by example is that I could have sat here for the last 30 years and think about me being in a wheelchair. The reality is this: I'm a paraplegic. I can't change that. What I can change is that I don't stay overweight in this chair. What I can change is that I'm not broke in this chair. What I can change is that I'm being impactful. What I can change is that, I'm going to live my life to the fullest. Okay, so what does that mean? Well, you get embarrassed. You used to get embarrassed when people were looking at you and you didn't think women really would rock with you because you fell in the chair. Well, let's get sexy in this wheelchair. Let's look fly. Let's go to work out. You don't like when people are feeling like they're bothered, like they're being bothered because they got to put your chair in. Well, let's get our money up, because if we get our money up, that gives more options. So I always say, look at life in a way, in what are the areas that you could, that are in your control, and what are the things that are not. When you make that list, you put a paper with all the things that you can control. You write a paper down on the things you cannot control. Crumble that paper that you can, leave it to God, because that's on Him. And you can't control that, but then we're going to have the list of the things that you should be working on. And I always say it starts from the inside out. So in Black and brown communities, I think that there's a taboo on not getting professional help when it comes to therapists. I'm not with that. I think that you should always get maintenance. You should always, just like a car, every 3 months you should have a professional. Just explain. As men, we grow up, Black and brown men grow up where don't cry. No, it's all right to cry, man. What it's not all right is not to have a time limit on it. Because if you're always crying, then you're not producing, right? Like I'm all right with crying. Like, just, okay, but let's just, okay, and I would never tell nobody to get over anything. Who am I? Who are you to tell anybody to get over anything? But what I do tell you is that you got to get through something. So once you get through it, doesn't mean it goes away, but you start giving it a time limit.
Or what are your goals and aspirations now?
My goals. So my recent goals is to finish my bachelor's. I'm wrapping up my semester. I start the semester this next week. I start semester. I go to Salem State, and I'm finishing my bachelor's in science and in psychology. Once I get my undergrad, my goal is to apply for UConn. I'm looking to get my PhD. If it's not UConn, whatever other colleges that we have in the area, there's a couple of them that I'm looking at. The goal is to get my PhD in the next 5-6 years. The goal is to ultimately, once I do that, I'm actually in position to not only, go back and forth bi-coastal living. I want to leave the winter out here. See, those are more personal goals. On a godly level, I want to be in a position where I could give women and single moms, the youth, opportunities where whether it's entrepreneurship or college, because I've done both. I've been a successful entrepreneur for 20-something years, and I'm doing college. And the reason I do that is because it just gives more options. I want to help in whatever that is for you. I want to be in a position where I could give, fund some of those college journeys. I would love to be in a position where I give exposure. I believe, yes, it's just, right now there's a housing crisis. Like there's so much going on in the city that and Worcester gave me so much. I think Worcester, I used to hate Worcester. I used to think Worcester was just so whack. I was like, yo, this is so country out here. And I'll be honest with you, we have one of the dopest, illest cities, people in here. We have so many people that come out of here, and I am Worcester. Like Worcester.
There's a lot of people that are moving out here from all over.
Because
and they say that Worcester's one of the best. Massachusetts overall is
hands
one of the
down.
best states to live in.
Hands down.
I'm trying to see that still, but it's
it is. Can I be honest with you? I come from Connecticut, New York, right. and I've been in, and I travel a lot. Hands down.
Is it?
If there's any opportunities, they're here. You don't gotta leave.
There's a lot of money in here.
You don't gotta leave. You don't gotta leave to make it. You don't gotta leave to make it. I promise you. I didn't have to leave, and I don't still think I made it, but I have control of my life.
Right.
I don't have to work for nobody. I'm CEO of multiple companies.
And Worcester's gave you that.
Worcester has gave me that. So you brothers, embrace. It's all relationships, which you guys are doing it already. That's key. But yeah, I believe that that's how I feel with that.
What's the message you want to relate to viewers watching this interview?
Life is what you make it, man. I think that if I want you to take anything out of this interview is that my journey, hasn't been easy, but I wouldn't change it for anything. And I think that we, in 2024, going into 2025, things could get so loud, and you have to silence the noise, and you have to really understand what is that for you. If you look at Jorge, I want you to understand that, life is what you make it. I live by that. And I have this saying this, I refuse to lose. And what does that mean? I could have sat here for 30 years and complained. I could have sat here for 30 years and become a victim of society in the sense, let the community, determine what my life should look like. If I told you and I went into this interview and I said that I was actually collecting SSI for the last 30 years, would you be mad at me? No. Why? That's the expectation. Right. I'm a paraplegic. But why would I even think so small like that? And I never did. I never allowed my situation to determine what that seeks. So for those that don't know what's next, well, you might not know what you want and what's next for you, but you know what you don't want. And I always say start there, right? Start where you are not happy, because at the end of the day, if you're waiting for somebody to come give you something, then you're mistaken. I've never used my situation as an excuse. I've used it as motivation. And I just want you to understand that, your decisions will design your destiny. What does that mean? A lot of us look like our decisions, right? In a good or a bad way. And so my thing has always been take accountability for your space, take accountability for, not only your space, but for always going into a space and making it better than what you found it. And that recipe always has been a blessing because through that, people just take to you. People want to see you win. And just don't make it just about yourself. Again, how can you go into a place and help somebody if you're not good? So always start with you. But at the same time, if I come in here and I see a piece of paper on the floor and I see all y'all just walk by it, I'm going to grab and pick up that piece of paper. Not because, it's my it's the expectation, but it's just my nature of just saying, at the end of the day, how can I go into an environment and make it better than what Jorge found it? And I think if you have that mindset and you truly operate off of working within yourself and finding what that true clarity, what's your purpose? And we use this word purpose, I think, so loosely, right? And I think that it does confuse a lot of people where like, oh, I don't know my purpose. Well, your purpose is you being that father. The purpose is you being that son. The purpose is you actually doing what you guys are doing right now, giving a platform for all of us to be able to share the story. That's purposeful, right? The purpose is to be actually be the best man that you can be, best woman that you can be. Integrity. That's purposeful. So I think that, you know, people get confused with, it has to be this glory. Nah, I'm walking in my purpose right now. But what I said to you guys, I've been doing this since year high. But if I would have never walked through that journey, I would have not been able to define that my purpose is to what plant seeds. If you look at Jorge, the name, and you Google my name, you know, and I'm going to keep it 100 with you. I was sad when I heard this, but then it settled in and I'm like, I receive it. I'm a farmer. Jorge means farmer.